What is up, guys? This is Luis Joel, and today we're making pizza. Last video we made some pulled pork, so today we're going to repurpose that pulled pork and we're going to make some pizza from scratch. And as always, it's super easy to make, so let's get into it. We're going to be making this dough from scratch, so here are some of the ingredients we're going to be using today. We're going to take out a bowl and we're going to add about 1 cup of warm water. And to that water, we're going to add some fast instant yeast. You could use active dry yeast, that also works too. And to that yeast, we're going to add about 1 tablespoon of sugar. Now we're going to let this yeast bloom for 2 to 3 minutes. The way you know your yeast is good is if you start to see foam on the top of the water. We're going to add about a teaspoon of salt and about 1 tablespoon of oil. After that, we're going to add 2 cups of flour. And with a clean hand, we're going to mix that in. Now we're going to knead the dough for about 12 minutes. And it's okay if it starts to stick to your hands. Just use your other hand to scrape off the parts that are sticking. Now I like to use my hand because I can gauge how dry or how wet the dough is. If the dough starts sticking to your hands too much, then just add a little bit more flour. If it seems a little dry, then add more water. Gonna come out a little different each time. The consistency is gonna depend on how much of each ingredient you're gonna be using. In this case, it's sticking a little bit too much to my fingers, so I'm just gonna add a little more flour and then just keep kneading that in. After about 12 minutes, the dough should be nice and smooth and it shouldn't be sticking to your fingers. Now we're gonna spray the bowl with some cooking spray and spray the dough as well. Now we're going to wrap this up with some cling wrap and we're going to let this proof in a nice dry warm area for about 40 minutes. Alright, after 40 minutes we're going to go ahead and disinfect our counter. And we're going to go ahead and remove our dough baby and we're going to knead that in for another 10 minutes. Now if you want a more flavorful pizza crust, you can let this proof overnight in the fridge and then just use it the next day. But since I'm going to be using this today, I'm just going to be proofing this for about 4 or 5 hours until I use it. Roll it up into a nice smooth ball and then put it back into the bowl and make sure it gets enough grease so it doesn't dry out. Now we're making a fresh marinara sauce, so go ahead and take out a medium saucepan. And we're going to add a little bit of olive oil. To that olive oil, we're going to add some pureed garlic. This garlic was going to go bad on me, so I had to kind of use it up today. We're going to cook that in a medium to low heat and make sure it doesn't burn. And we're going to add a 28-ounce can of San Marzano peeled tomatoes. Make sure you simmer this on a low to medium heat because otherwise this thing's going to start popping molten hot sauce everywhere. I'm going to use a masher to squish down the big chunks. If you like your sauce to be chunky, you don't have to do this. You could skip this step. But I prefer my sauce to be nice and smooth, so I'm just going to squish this down a bit. Add in about 1 big heaping tablespoon of tomato paste. Maybe a tablespoon and a half. I'm using about 4 or 5 sprigs of basil. The container was running out, so I just threw the rest of it in there. Now mix that in really well. Gonna be seasoning this with my barbecue rub. If you guys want to know what's in this, check out my baby back ribs video. It shows everything that I put in here. And we're gonna simmer this for about 2 hours. Always taste your sauce for more seasoning. Gonna add about a tablespoon of sugar to add more sweetness. Gonna go ahead and taste that again. And yep, that tastes good. Preheat your oven to 500 and go ahead and take out a 16-inch pizza pan and spray it down with some non-stick spray. And on your counter, you're gonna lay out some flour. spread it out with a clean hand and take your dough out. Put some flour on your fingers so that way the dough doesn't stick to your hands, and you're just gonna pat it out or flatten out with your fingers. You could use a rolling pin, but you know, I just feel like my hand works just fine. Gonna go ahead and spread that out onto the pizza pan. Doesn't have to be even, guys, just needs to fit the pan. Take your time, guys. If it rips, just grab some pieces from the edge and just patch it up. If you let your dough rest overnight in the fridge, it might be a little stiff, so you might want to let it sit out at room temperature to warm up before you start working with it. Now off camera, I made a couple other batches of dough just because I'm doing multiple pizzas. This is just a different kind of 16-inch pizza pan. So for this pizza pan, I'm going to be using cornmeal. Same thing, you're just going to lay it out. And with a clean hand, you're going to lay out the other pizza dough. Make sure you have a little bit of flour on your fingers or cornmeal so it doesn't stick to your fingers. And we're just going to spread it out onto the pizza pan. Again, doesn't have to be perfect. It's going to want to separate from the sides, but just keep working it and it'll eventually form to the pan. So back to the other pizza pan, we're going to grab some barbecue sauce. Use whatever brand you want. I'm using Sweet Baby Ray's. And you want to just spread that out evenly. I'm using shredded mozzarella cheese. You could mix it up with cheddar or provolone. You want to sprinkle that evenly. Now this is the leftover pulled pork that we made in the last video. I warmed this up in the microwave for about 30 seconds just to make it easier to work with. I'm also adding some onions to this. Use whatever vegetables you like. The bag was running out on me, so I might as well just use the rest of it. We're going to finish that off with just a little bit more barbecue sauce. Okay, now that our oven is preheated to 500 degrees, we're going to go ahead and set up our racks on the second most bottom rack of the oven. You're going to go ahead and take your pizza. And we're going to bake that for about 15 minutes at 500 degrees. Keep an eye on it because it will burn. Now while that pizza is baking, we're going to go ahead and prepare our pepperoni pizza. We're going to take our homemade marinara sauce and we're going to spread it out. And once again, we're going to add some mozzarella cheese. I bought these pepperonis from our local store. You can get it from a deli or wherever what's closer to you. And to that, I'm going to add some fresh mozzarella, just to mix it up. Now after 15 minutes, our pulled pork pizza is done. And you're going to want to let this sit for about 5 to 6 minutes to let it cool down before you chop into it. And definitely use a mitten so you don't burn your hands when chopping it. You don't need a pizza cutter, you could just use a regular knife. Now that's what you want your pizza to look like, guys. Now back to the other one. You guys are going to notice that the crust is a little lighter on this one. That's just because I lost a little bit of heat in between baking this one and the last one. But I promise you the crust is still cooked. If you look on the bottom, it's nice golden brown, so it's definitely done. And it still looks beautiful. Now this part's optional, but I like to add a little bit of parsley on the top just for garnish. Just gives a better, more aesthetic pizza. There you have it, guys. This is the homemade barbecue pulled pork pizza made from scratch. If you've never made your own pizza from scratch, I am telling you, this will change your life. Try this recipe out. You will not regret it. Here's the pepperoni. Gotta give you a shot of the cheese pull. Don't be stupid like me. Let the pizza cool down before you bite into it. But anyway, if you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys on the next video. Peace out.